Six Gun Productions. New media, new rules.
This is Geek News Radio, broadcast 65. For Monday, July 23, 2018. Apple Tree 40K.
You're listening to Geek News Radio, episode 65. I'm Dave in Birmingham.
I'm Mike in Scaries.
And I'm Fab in Hamburg. Is it warm where you are?
It's very warm, Fab.
It actually started raining now in Ireland, which is great because I want my new lawn, to grow.
Do you have a new lawn?
Water.
Is that like just planted?
No, we got a landscape gardener to come and sort of reshape our garden, so we're not falling and sliding when we go up and down our garden. That's on a hill. So.
How much input did you have? Did you get someone in and say, please fix the garden? Or did you say, please fix the garden, here's a plan?
Okay, rat hole alarm.
Okay, let's start with that then.
So we got a lady in to do plants, and she was this kind of combination of a sort of let's say sort of wildflower, sort of eco thinking, sort of
hippie gardener.
Hippie gardener, maybe, yeah, but we like that, and she had a good quote on the price as well. So she came and talked to us, and then drew up the plants, and then we gave that to a landscape gardener, who then came in his little mini digger and pushed soil around and planted some grass seed, and yeah. Unfortunately, for some reason, it's been nearly 4 weeks of very dry weather in Ireland, which is really strange. So the bloody grass hasn't really grown, and I'm standing there trying to, water it a bit, but then of course there are water restrictions in Ireland because our reservoirs aren't filling up because the rain.
Stop! What? There's no water in Ireland? What? Isn't Ireland full of rain? Isn't it raining there all the time? That's what they say when I buy Kerrygold.
Yeah, if it doesn't rain then, Fab, then the reservoirs don't fill up, and then...
You mean it's not raining in Ireland right now?
Well, just today, but this is the first day in like 3 or 4 weeks.
What? The world's ending. Oh my god, we're all dying. Global warming is real.
It is end times, yeah.
Well, it's been the end times since they killed the original Warhammer fan. Anyway, keep going.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Because I tried to reinvigorate our terrible grass with the feed and seed and weed things. It's a combination seeds, weeds, and also kills moss.
Oh my god, it's house talk.
It did really
Geek
well.
News house talk.
Killed moss, and it kind of made existing patchy grass grow big, but the seeds did not take, because we had a month of horribly hot weather with no rain, so the seeds just sort of sat there, and then birds ate them. It was great. I felt really good.
Yeah, so what have you been planting, Fab?
Yeah, what gardening have you done?
I'm not doing any gardening, which is why I don't have a house. Katie's doing actually on the balcony. We have loads of chilies. We have a little apple tree in a pot, and it had aphids. And so there was a war raging because Katie, being herself a bit of a hippie gardener, I think, said we can't do this with chemicals, right? My parents were like, just nuke the fuckers with whatever. And
I like her.
She bought ladybug lavas on. You can buy them on Amazon, and they get shipped. It needs to be kind of warm, otherwise they die in the post. But and then you put them on the apple tree, and then they eat all the aphids. They eat 3,000 aphids a day, one ladybug thing. But then we realized that we learned that ants actually hurt aphids, because aphids they are bad for plants because they bite they suck the plant juice out,
right? Mm-hmm.
And ants come and kind of suck the plant juice out of the aphids,
right?
But they don't kill them. They just they groom them. Right, they carry them from place to place and shit. So
that's weird.
And they will fight against the ladybug things because they eat the aphids.
Yeah, they need them alive.
Yeah.
They need their soggy slaves.
Yeah.
A full-on like Disney film happened.
Fucking war on this little apple tree. Yes, it's like Warhammer 40 apple tree. I don't know. Apple tree 40,000. I don't know what the hell was going on. And then we needed to buy like this. It's like glue tape.
Right,
You
so
put
the
around
ants
the
get
stem on the tree so they can't get up. So then you kill all the ants that are up there, and new ants can't get up. And I shit you not, the fucking ladybug larvae things, they ate all the aphids. There were like 1 billion aphids on that tree. And I thought it was dead. And Katie was like, for a while we weren't believing that the ladybugs would win. But yes, they won the great battle over the apple tree. And they're now running away because there's no aphids anymore. And they will turn into beautiful little ladybugs.
Oh, so that means there's cider next year from your.
Well, the thing is,
balcony cider.
the thing is, it's like a very small tree, and this year it actually has apples, but like some of them have fallen off because in June some apples apparently fall off, and like others are being eaten by like wasps and stuff, and they never really survive. But it's more about like the process, like, you know, maybe a thimble of cider at most. But the war was kind of cool. So that's kind of Katie's department. The apple tree is called Hartmut, by the way.
Hartmut.
Yeah.
That's his name.
Yes. We named him because he needed a name, so we called him Hartmut. This is a good old-fashioned German name.
In the far future, there's only killer ladybirds and slave ants. The ant slavers.
Yeah, that's like chaos right there.
Yeah, they or maybe like the Drukari.
Oh yeah. They're definitely the dark elves. The fucking
Just,
ants.
Yeah, give me your apple.
Also, you can't kill them. They're like everywhere. They're like fucking. I don't know. Yes, if you haven't figured out, this show we're gonna talk about Warhammer.
No way. What?
Because
Just a little bit, yeah.
I figured we need to talk about Warhammer again, and then we need Mike on, obviously. Yes.
I'm happy to serve.
What are you guys drinking?
Yes, I have a King Goblin.
Oh, nice.
66%, no, 6.6%. Extraordinary beer of exceptional quality.
6.66%.
Yes. So, only ever brewed under a full lunar moon. Crystal malts and sovereign hops for rich, smooth, sublimely satisfying taste of pure beer indulgence.
Is that real, like the moon thing?
It says on the bottle.
It must be real. There are like
Must be
EU
real, yeah.
laws about this kind of shit.
Yeah.
It's gonna be like that thing where there's the little like, it's like a brain teaser where you tell someone that, oh man, did you know that like 60% of crimes the crime rate is lots higher 2 weeks either side of a full moon. And they're like, whoa, what? That's amazing. And then, like, it's secretly because it's like, what, full moons happen every 4 weeks, so 2 weeks either side of a full moon is all of the time. That's what it's going to be like. It's like, well, actually, it's like it's brewed within a certain distance of a full moon, which means that secretly, like, it's all the time.
Well, I have to say the taste is kind of riotous. So yeah, there's something under the surface here.
What are you drinking, Dave?
I have a Hop House 13. Listeners of the previous show might notice that's a very similar drink.
Irish.
Yeah, it's great. I really, really, really like it. It's like because it's made by the Guinness lads, right? Yeah, it is. Because it's got the half on the back. And I much prefer it to Guinness because it's warm, and what you want on a warm day is not like a thick stout.
Yes, an ice cold Guinness. What the hell's wrong with you?
He's still young. He's still young, Fab.
You could have
a bit of slack.
A millennial hoppy lager. That's what you want.
I'm young. Yeah, my bones tell me no.
Dave's on entry level. It's fine. Like Let's let Millennial Dave be Dave. It's fine.
You're right. I've got a half a bottle of Razzia and Pilsner left, and then because I feel like I'm gonna need this later, I put myself a huge glass of Bounty rum from Fiji. I'm kind of in a Fiji mood again. I recently got a surprise tattoo, which was Fiji inspired, so I'm kind of in the Fiji, and it's very warm.
So the palm was Fiji, and then you had the sort of graphic.
No, actually, it says
Outrun, or what?
no, it says Bula, which is Fijian.
Bula.
That's what they say when you meet somebody. They say Bula, which means it means hello, but it means to be alive. It means kind of like happy to see you. Let's be happy to be alive. Which I kind of like. And the palm, I wanted the palm, right? So I always wanted a palm tree, and I couldn't settle on the image. And then I found this, there's an art style called Outrun, which is like 80s video games. You know, it's that grid and the hot pink stuff. And I found a palm tree that was great, but the colors weren't, like they were like pink on black. So you can't tattoo that, obviously. And so I just changed the colors, but yeah, it's Fiji inspired.
Yeah. So it kind of a Miami slash Fiji slash Outrun thing.
Yeah, it's a bit Miami Vice. Yeah.
Yeah. And if we had to translate, now we're doing Deep Lore, then it would probably be like Andrew WK going hello party. Yeah, something like that. That would be the translation, wouldn't it?
Probably. I still haven't listened to a single Andrew WK song.
I want Fab to do it. I want a video of Fab reacts to Andrew WK. You will bloody hate it.
Make it happen. Make it happen. I tell you.
Okay, I'm up for that. So Bula is a bit like Aloha in Hawaii. It's like, it's kind of that kind of thing. And it was not that people misunderstand. It was a surprise tattoo because I thought I had a appointment in like a lot of months in the future, and then the artist was just like, "Oh, somebody dropped off tomorrow. Can you do tomorrow?" And I'm like, "Fuck work. I'm getting inks." So that was
awesome. You did look very happy, I have to say, on the picture you tweeted.
Well, that was like she took a break because she had to talk. She had to talk to somebody, and I took that picture, and that is half pain, half joy.
A grimace of pain.
Yeah, it was like half through the process, so it was already starting to hurt. Right.
Well, you made it look simple and easy.
I give my best. Let's get into Warhammer stuff, right? Let's get right into this. Let's talk Warhams.
If we must. Yes. So this is the Geek News Radio Warhammer special. I think we haven't had one for a while, and there's so much to talk about.
Yeah, a lot happened.
Yeah. I think we should probably for the active listeners, they're sitting there. They have I can see their little display where they have the countdown timer to when is the first rant gonna happen. So we'll start off sort of nice and softly, and sort of maybe in Warhammer we're both looking at all the news coming out from Games Workshop. We'll do some Black Library stuff as well, and including in that, of course, we'll get to touch on the exciting news of Warhammer Adventures, which is this new comic books for kids, basically. But first, an update from the 4 Feldherren.
Oh God!
So
Can I start?
Yes.
I haven't done anything.
See, that was easy. You didn't even need to prepare. So the thing is, Fab's output, shall we say? I think you're consistent with your rate of output, right? Because you make about you paint about one model every 6 to 8 months or something.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's say around August time, you might have another one done. Is that
that
fair enough?
yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
I have
cool.
to like that desk. I'm looking at the hobby desk right now, right? And I've got my wet palette set there. It has dried out months ago. It's all set there, except there's like random shit that when I come in and I need a table to drop off shit on, it's like that table. So there's like random stuff lying there, like an old pair of
fair.
glasses, like I don't know, the receipts.
All right. So, do you have cobwebs? Because that was my absolute nadir, the bottom pit of where I
No,
ended up.
but mostly because Katie is very like sensitive to dust and cobwebs, and she will brush them away. So that's not an indicator in this household.
Right. Okay. Well, I have slightly more to report. Because as you might have seen on Discord,
Yes.
I've made a few librarians.
They look amazing, I have to say. They look really good.
Are they from any of them from the Space Hulk?
Indeed. So the Terminator librarian is Space Hulk one, because I plan to put a few magnets on the base of that guy, because he's sort of stepping down some rungs where there's like skulls and stuff, and put a few magnets on a normal round base, and then I can sort of just pick in on and off which base he needs to play with, if it's Space Hulk or 40k, because it's a really nice model. Like all the Space Hulk Blood Angels are incredible. They're really beautiful. And at the time when I started them, the update hadn't come out with the new beta rules that they're testing out. So I had sort of found playing that I needed more librarians, because they were very powerful in sort of that stage of the game that it was at. Of course, now that I've finished them, they've sent out the update where I wouldn't say they've nerfed the librarians, but they've changed the rules slightly about how to how many times you can throw the same spell and things like that. So they're still valuable, but I'm not sure if I'm gonna have two in an army, for example, where before I felt I was a little bit low when I only had one. But anyway, now I have a little bit more to choose from for the Blood Angels on librarians. And then of course they are spewing out codexes like there's no
I had some progress.
It did.
Yeah.
I believe in the thing where we agreed the 4 Feldherren things. I was a little bit drunk, so I said I'd do 1,000 points of Blood Angels. I have taken that to heart, and I have assembled about 1,200 points of Blood Angels. I have. It's a bit annoying because the rules change thing happened as well. I have the core of the army is 3 10-man squads of Death Company with jump packs, and the idea was I would be abusing the Deep Strike rules, and they changed that. So I played a game with it with the new rules, and it was not fun. Because my opponent correctly did the thing where he made sure every miniature was spaced optimally, so there was no place I could drop that didn't see me dropping into this massive gun line with a maximum distance to charge.
Yep.
That's quite bad. So I've assembled all of those. I've just got the Storm Raven left to do. I was going to do that before I moved, but I decided it would be easier and less dangerous to move it in pieces than assemble it, then move it. So that'll get on pretty shortly. But the kind of distraction, we'll call it a distraction, is that the other weekend I got given my cousin's entire Warhammer collection.
Seriously?
Yeah, so this is back when we were kids. And
So it's like 10 years ago.
yeah, so it's got some unnamed. I have no idea what they are. There's some sort of like old Warhammer guys I don't know, like they're weird paladin dudes. I've never seen their model ever before.
They're Bretonians or something, or
what? It's just that they've got big pauldrons, and they've got. I'll put a picture.
Yeah, post them. Yeah,
somewhere because they're really strange. I've got some 5 metal death. Yeah, 5 metal death company. Most of a metal tech marine. What other things can I see on my desk? Because currently my desk is entirely covered in this stuff. And then we get into the Lord of the Rings Warhammer, which is where, when we were kids, we were teenagers, whatever, we were super into. So I have been given, as far as I can tell, most of so they did these big sort of starter boxes.
So this is Lord of the Rings Battle Tactics, whatever that was.
Battle games or something. So I've got 20 or so goblins. I've got some sort of heroes of the First Alliance. So I've got like elves. I've got the Dunedain, not Dunedain. The lads from Minas Tirith, and then that's basically that. And then I've got the second box set, which had Uruk-hai and some Riders of Rohan. But then on top of that, I have characters, which is the super exciting thing. Because I have 2 Lurtz. He was the Uruk-hai general they invented for the film. I've got so that's all of it. I've got 3 metal berserkers. Uruk-hai. I've got that's all of the special lads up for them I have, and then no special characters for goblins because they're boring. I've got some metal Uruk-hai crossbowmen, which I don't think I ever had as a kid. I've got Theoden on horseback. I've also got Theoden not on horseback. I've got a Ringwraith on horseback. I've got a Ringwraith not on horseback. I have loads of bonus elves that had so they're Haldir's elves, the lads who turned up at
Helm's Deep.
At Helm's Deep, and were like the coolest bit. I fucking loved that scene because that also wasn't in the book. Got some bonus archers for those, some archers for the Minas Tirith guys. I've got some weird wood elves I don't ever remember there being, and then I've got the set that was Saruman and Gandalf fighting atop the tower. So there's the Palantir. I've got the little metal Palantir, which is adorable.
Oh, that's so cool.
I've got Arwen. I've got the entire Fellowship plus Bilbo Baggins, and then like 2 copies of Merry. I don't know how that happened. I've got so I've got the Strider version of Strider, and then I've got the Aragorn version of Strider. I think I have 2 Legolas lads. I've got Elrond as well, and I've got Gandalf the Grey, and then Gandalf the Grey looking a bit frazzled. It's fucking.
How many Gandalfs are there?
Well, so there's Gandalf the Grey, sort of Fellowship edition, where he's got the hat and the staff and Glamdring, his sword. Oh, why do I know this?
Nice.
Absolute bollocks. And then there's the version where he's fighting Saruman atop the tower, and he doesn't have a sword, but he just has his staff, and they're doing the weird Lord of the Rings magic, where he's like, mate, I'm a fucking sort of a god kind of angel. He's an angel. He's met a god or some bollocks. And then there was Gandalf the White model, and then there was Gandalf the White on horseback. But I don't think I have.
Isn't that just the same model and you paint it differently?
No, so they've got different poses and they have like different like outfits.
I thought the main difference was the color.
No. So like they're all 4 of those Gandalfs have different poses.
Okay.
And in the rules, I think they had the white and grey had different rules because when he was grey, he was less. Well, I mean, I never really understood this in Lord of the Rings. How so the grey, because he was part of the.
I don't think anybody did.
But then he came back.
No. So basically, there's
okay.
5
Mike
wizards,
did.
right?
Yeah, there's 5 wizards, and they each have a colour. There's
So obviously
white,
when,
grey.
yeah.
There's Radagast, who's the brown, and there's the red and blue, two blue ones, or the red. They
something
weren't
like that. They get very sort of
Gandalf
shallowly
meets them
mentioned.
at Crossroads or some bollocks.
Pepper Smurf. Is that the blue one?
But so he comes back as Gandalf the White because at that point, like,
Yeah, Sauron shat the bed and kind of gave it. Yeah,
but,
exactly.
I don't really understand how that. I mean, I always got the opinion that he came back as Gandalf the White as more powerful than he was, but I wondered if it was just like I've been holding back all this time and I've come back as more of a badass.
No, but that's the thing, because the Council of the Wizards, I can't remember the law name for them. Like, obviously, Tolkien made a whole background, like in the Silmarillion and all of the sort of stories that were based around the law of the world. Obviously, there are the references to them. But as far as I understand it, the Council of the Wizards, the White is the first among peers kind of thing. So he's kind of like the tiebreaker or whatever when they talk about things, and that's why it's so disturbing that it's Saruman that falls to the Dark Lord, right?
Yeah.
But obviously, since the Grey is sort of next in line, then he takes the mantle of the White, because Saruman sort of gives up his position in the council.
Yeah, but it's almost kind of weird because like Saruman's a lad, he's a guy, whereas Gandalf was an Istari.
But he has the golden gun, right? He's the man with the golden gun.
No, he's the one who got sent to...
Mike got it.
He got sent to Middle-earth by the Valar, who are essentially
yes
gods. They're
Yeah,
sort of the gods, but they're not like the mega god, because there's a higher god.
They're like the angels. Yeah, I think the
so-
wizards are not quite angels. They're like
Gandalf's like a sub-angel.
yeah.
I don't think that's a technical term.
It's not. Well, the technical term is Istari, and it doesn't actually help because it's Quenya for wise ones. I'm reading this on Wikipedia.
Oh, that's why you're all of a sudden so knowledgeable.
I did go on a big binge the other day when I had this, like looking up all the bollocks. I was like, man, like this was all not needed.
The way I understood it is that, like in Christianity, where there are hierarchies of angels, right?
Mm.
I think we're on the same sort of scope with these guys. That you have some very powerful angels that are nearly, right hand of the gods or whatever, the Valar, and then you have the sort of lower hierarchies and the earthly sort of representatives that walk around and do the deeds on the ground, which would be the wizards. But
so I have a diagram. There's this one god called Eru Iluvatar, who sounds a bit like he wants to be Iluvate the band, who is the one god, and then the Valar serve that lad, and then the Valar sort of are served by the Istari kind of thing.
So how does Count Dooku fit into this?
yeah.
He was just a guy. He was just like a normal dude, I think. And
But he had a golden gun, right? I get confused here.
he had a ring, for sure, I think. But he also had this magic ball that he could look into that sort of drove him mad.
Oh, Saruman.
Yeah.
I thought that was Nietzsche.
It was the Palantir, wasn't it? That he found it, and then
There are two.
the Dark
and you
Lords.
you can talk to each
They
other.
started
through
talking
it.
to him, whispering sweet ideas into his head.
Yeah. What if
And then
you,
the whole
what if you made weird, like, human goblin
hawk
hybrids
hybrids. Yeah,
that
exactly.
are just like made of mud as well?
Yeah.
Oh my god, it's a weird world. But I have loads of Warhammer, so it's great. That's my progress. So I bought some Biostrip at the recommendation of Joe. Because I was looking up like what to strip models with, and I've had like very limited success in the past with stripping models. And he was emphatic that Biostrip is the only way to go. It's a bit of a faff because you have to like order it, like shops don't sell it. Because I was going to attack things with isopropyl alcohol, but
Says Mr. Amazon.
well, yeah. So I just Amazon Primed it the other day, so it was fine. But it was kind of it's a bit like weird. I don't know, because it's kind of, it's not cheap. That's the thing. Like, you can go get isopropyl alcohol from like a DIY store for like no money, basically. Whereas Biostrip is more expensive, but apparently it's super reusable, which is nice. So yeah, that's my progress. Is that I've thought a lot about Lord of the Rings. But yeah, I will. I need to buy some black spray paint because I need to base coat everything black for the Blood Angels. So.
Yeah, that's how you do it. You base coat everything black. That's what I've done with every model except my Blood Bowl models. Forever.
I can kind of get behind that, apart from the fact that they actually have spray coating, Mephiston red.
Well, I refuse to use that. That wasn't around when that's some newfangled shit. That's just like easy mode.
All of my Blood Angels are Death Company.
I like that. Yeah, of course. Then.
So it's a fluffy army now rather than like a competitive army. But also the Storm Raven's going to be Death Company as well, because it's going to deliver. Good. It's going to deliver the Death Company Dreadnought. So.
Oh, awesome! That's how it should be. Just pure fluff, like just also,
So in the game I played after the rules change, I had everything except the Storm Raven, and it turns out that the Dreadnought is terrible without the Storm Raven, because it gets shot at from across the board.
It has to walk all the way over. Hey guys, stand still! I need to get my claws into you.
He walked over for like 2 turns, and then Ben's tanks just obliterated it, and I felt very sad.
There you go. Oh, perfect way. Just drop the nice package there with claws on somebody.
Yeah, I went looking entirely. Like, he's worth a lot as well. So. The two need to go together. Yes, that is my progress. You were going to talk about the next topic.
Well, that was the thing, because
they're putting out a lot of codexes. They're putting out a lot of shit at all. I can't keep up. Like, it's.
Yeah, I know. But the thing was, as we've been talking about this rules change, right? That you can't charge across your own deployment area in the first turn, I think it is. So all the sort of strike options now that the jump and teleport units had is now sort of reduced to start that you can start doing it in round 2. So I realized, as Dave did on it the hard way, that obviously you need to scale a little bit back on the flipping jump pack and teleport units. And conveniently enough, I did actually started dabbling in Deathwatch before 8th edition came out, and then the Deathwatch Codex came out. And as it turns out, they still do the kill teams, where you can basically combine normal Marines with like fast attack, like bikes and jump pack Marines and Terminators, which gives you the option to sort of mix and match these units with specialists if you want, and even if you have sort of 50-50 of, let's say, bikes and normal Marines, then you can use the bikes toughness, which is 5 instead of 4. So there's a lot of advantages to mixing them up like this, because then you're getting more firepower. And Deathwatch are especially renowned because they have this special ammunition, which now is sort of just standard rules, where you get more armor penetration or things like that. And it doesn't matter who you're shooting at as such, because what they've changed it to is it's not like specific to a race, but it's specific to a type of unit.
I have a question before we get deeper into that. That's new, right? Deathwatch as an army?
No, they had released a codex for 7th edition. It was one of the last codex before they went to 8th edition.
How do you guys feel about that? When I first saw this, like for me that was new, right? And I felt like the Deathwatch is such a special thing that I thought it's weird to have that as an army.
I think
And they're like the ultra elite special forces, right?
I'm glad there are rules for it. I think they were in the indices.
They were, yeah. But the rules, the stratagems and rules were kind of.
The thing with the indexes, fuck it, it's indexes because it's codexes. The thing with those is that those rules are always underpowered relative to an actual codex army because they're just fundamentally not as complicated. There's not as many things to abuse in them. So that if they want to be played by people, they have to have a codex. My only thing about them being like this extra thing is that it's like yet another Space Marine army, which I'm entirely fine with, but people make fun of me all the time.
I just find it weird, like conceptually, that they turn up. Like for me, I mean, they are there to hunt aliens, right? So
that's their primary purpose.
So for me, it's just like weird if they just turn up to, I don't know,
fight
chaos, or even like an orc war, right? I mean, they're more like inserted into like a Space Hulk or whatever to do like a special Tom Clancy kind of mission. I always thought.
I guess that's where you forge the narrative, right?
Of course you do. Like, let me get my hammer.
you either play it as like a competitive thing and you pick the best army to play competitively, or you play with people and maybe make a story about it, or you just sort of ignore that, like, oh my god, why are these Deathwatch fighting like heretics or something?
Yeah, I didn't mean to say that I'm against it. That it's an army. I just struck me as weird.
You're right. It gives you the same kind of questions you have with the Grey Knights, basically, of like, why are the Grey Knights fighting orcs?
But
why are the Grey Knights so numerous?
True, but the difference is like.
They're supposed to have literally like the best tech.
But there are more, like, if you read the novels or whatever, the Grey Knights are more numerous, right?
Yeah. But
so a kill team is always just like in the books. It's like, what's it, 5 Space Marines? Like most of the time.
Squad of a kill team. That's no problem. But you'll have 5 normal Marines, and you'll have. Heavy weapon guy and a jump guy and a bike or something like that. You know?
Well, but I just thought, like, in the novels, they don't fight like an army does. Like the Grey Knights kind of do. Like they fight in an open field sometimes. You know what I mean?
I see what.
They're always portrayed as like doing like underground mission, or a search and destroy or whatever. Yeah,
surgical strikes. But I'll tell you full disclosure that I know. Why I like this one, because first of all, I think the aesthetic of the Deathwatch is pretty cool.
Yeah, they're great, aren't they? Like, I agree with that.
The visual aesthetic is really, really cool.
It's also the perfect thing if you can't decide on a chapter.
Yeah, you just take everyone. That's the thing. But rules-wise, they've now included Primaris Marines into the kill teams, which before 8th edition, it was only normal Space Marines, right? Because they have to sort of get the fluff to go like, okay, what actually happened? And that was that Rebude Gilliman was like, here's a separate organization which usually picks our veterans. But obviously, these guys are pretty stretched at the moment because we have the whole flippin' scar going on, and the galaxy has been torn in half. So I'll throw them some Primaris Marines their way and make sure that they can bolster up against all the other stuff happening, because otherwise they'll just get overrun. So that's kind of the background for that, and that means that now you have Primaris Marines that you can put in a squad together with Inceptors, the jump pack guys with the heavy weapons, and with the Aggressors, which is the guys in the sort of thicker Gravis armor that also have either flamers, like powerful flamers, or the multi assault bolter style thing where you have lots of shots. So basically, now you have Marines that can fire their bolt rifles with specialist ammunition, including as well in their group specialist guys that can fire plasma weapons and things like that. So all of a sudden you have much more punch for your money, because the Primaris Marines are a bit more expensive. They have that extra wound, and if I had my Blood Angel army looking at the rules, I just find the Primaris Marines a little bit too expensive for what you're getting. But now if you can actually use them with the specialist ammunition, where you get armor penetration and sort of higher damage, with normal Primaris Marines, you're all of a sudden looking at very, very versatile groups in the game. So right now, my cunning plan is to have like 3 groups of troops of Deathwatch, and then the Death Company Blood Angels as the sort of specialist assault guys in a combined army. That's kind of where I'm going, and I've happened to invested in the Repulsor, which is the main tank now for the Primaris Marines, which has a ridiculous amount of shots, even on the standard template. So the idea is that, you know, I can have this kill team being transported with aggressors, with flamers, for example, and then the normal Primaris Marines with their assault bolter versions, which will give a lot of shots once they disembark. That's the plan anyway. We'll see in a couple of weeks if I get this sort of barely put together. I don't think I'm gonna be able to paint it all, but at least put a dash of color on all of them, and then on the 22nd, 22nd, and 3rd of June, I will meet with some of the guys here in Northern Ireland and have some games against them. So that's my plan now, to get that gun line that the rules now favor, but have the Blood Angel Specialist Assault Marines still sort of involved in the Death Watch, Death Company, and then have the Death Watch as the main gun line guys that can put out a lot of damage and a lot of shots, even though they're sort of the stock Marines, if you want. That's the plan.
Makes sense. Sounds great.
Yeah. And obviously as well, the big thing that came out recently was Imperial Knights.
Yes.
And oh my god, Knights, oh, they're so cool. I love them.
Some new something.
Armature, yeah.
The sizes are weird, I find.
Yeah. There's a smaller one, and they brought out two sort of newer, bigger kits, right? That have more guns.
Yeah, so now they have 3 types. So they have the Quaestores, which is the sort of nominal knights, the one that they introduced first. Then you're right, they introduced the heavy one, which is called Dominus, which is like it's like a battle tank just on legs, basically like a Baneblade or something. It's just it looks ridiculous, like there's guns everywhere on it. It's so funny. And then they have, you're right, the little armature ones that are sort of support units to the knights, and the idea with them is that you can make a proper detachment now where you have 2 of those guys and then a knight to make up your detachment of 3 Lords of War, and then get some bonus command points.
I am not a fan of the smaller knights because I haven't read the rules, and I probably won't because like it's another army that I'd be getting, but they look very Adeptus Mechanicum kind of Mechanicus thing.
Exactly, yeah.
I
know what you mean.
They look too similar to another army, so I think they'd be model-wise they'd be better placed in that. So that's where I am with that. I don't think they really fit in that.
But you see, that is what they have addressed in the new codex, because I know exactly what you're saying. That before it was a bit schizophrenic, right? Because you were a bit like, am I doing a Mechanicus army or an Imperium army, or what am I doing if I choose knights, right? Mm-hmm. So now what they're saying is you can decide that you are predominantly Imperialis, so you are sort of Imperial aligned knight worlds that supply whatever army with your knights, or you can be Mechanicus, and you get different types of houses for those 2 factions. So obviously I think they have addressed this in a way where you can get an Imperial flavor to your army or a Mechanicus flavor to your army, and it will suit either. And then of course you have the Free Blades, which is the sort of roaming knights that have no specific allegiance. Yeah. And in the rules, you can choose to align yourself with some of these houses, and then they will have, some of them are monster hunters, and others are like, close combat specialists, and others are, heavy gun line specialists. It all sort of fits in with the way the armies work now. And the Free Blades work in a specific way where you can decide on some kind of boon, or sort of a specialism that free play has. But when you select one of those, you have to choose to either choose 2 disadvantages yourself or roll a disadvantage. So you get either 1 or 2, depending on if you want to choose yourself or if you want to let the dice decide for you. Which I think seems like a very balanced way of doing it, because obviously you could see in your mind's eye a lot of free blades running around and selecting very good qualities, but as they say, these burdens, as they call them, you have to take them on as well, which is like, if we look here, so for example, one could be like a quest quality where you're seeking out the enemy warlord, right? And then if you get to fight him, then you're able to control an objective marker or something like that, But then you have to have a burden, which could be that if you roll a 6 on your hit, then you have to re-roll, because it's called haunted by failure, So basically the knight spirit has had some kind of failure or whatever, and then that's the cost of then being able to do the objective stuff, So I think there's a lot of scope in the rules for the knights now, where you can mix and match a bit more and get the kind of flavor to your army that you want. Because before it was, there were different types of knights, but there wasn't so much about what the houses meant and what they could do. So yeah, but I don't see myself making an army with, Lords of War detachments and things like that, because I don't have any Mechanicus as well, which I think would make more sense. The Imperial one, yeah, they would probably suit better with some kind of Astra Militarum army. In my head anyway, if it's Imperium, where you can buy a lot of cheap troops and then have these like massive gun stations walking in and tearing up the opponents.
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, go ahead.
I really want a normal knight just as a painting project. I think.
Yeah. Exactly.
I think the normal knights look really, really good. Like the one with big chainsaw. I like that. So I think that'll be a thing I get eventually, and maybe put it in an army somewhere.
It must be so fun to try. I mean, because like you get 2 extremely powerful weapons at least, and then there's some support weapons on them, and then they have Titanic feet as well, which is like just a close combat weapon in itself, where they can just stomp on things.
They also feel like a weird army to me. I mean, I get that they are, I would get them as like a support thing in an army, but just an army with knights just seems, I don't know. See, I'm not necessarily bad. It just seems to be very, very different to play against.
It's very specialist. Very specialist, for sure.
I want to say kind of like enables you to play some of the lore bits that happen in the Horus Heresy, like in Mechanicum. When they're on Mars and they're kind of like there's warring factions on Mars, like having fights, and knights and like Titan-y knight things. Kind of like feels like it lets you do that, but I think like as a tangent, I think that's what Titanicus is going to do, because that's coming, and we're going to have like smaller versions of Titans, and they'll be not necessarily affordable, but certainly cheaper.
Yeah.
That game looks really cool.
Yeah, it does, and it just looks like a money sink. I've tried to avoid looking at it because I know I'm just gonna be salivating like mad. I just love Titans and Knights and all that. Huge war machines. Just not a word about Battletech, but yeah, same area. So yeah, I think there's a lot of variety now. I think there's a few codex left. I can't remember. Would it be Orcs?
There's Orcs and Space Wolves that have been announced in the
Orcs and Space Wolves. That's what's coming up. Yeah, and obviously then everybody will want to play Space Wolves because obviously they'll be the most powerful iteration of the Space Marines at that time. But you kind of have to cut the cut the cheese at some point, and just go, okay, I'm gonna stick with this. And I mean, we've been talking about this before about sort of rules creep and updates and all that, and we're beginning to see the end of the codex cycle. So I'm just wondering what's gonna happen now, if they're gonna avoid what they did before, where it kind of turned into this ridiculous cycle of just outputting new codexes following on, because I'd like it to be a bit more stable for a while. But I guess that's the old man talking in me. I just want stability and enough time to do the things that the new rules that then become very old.
Yeah, that's because we aren't millennials and we're old. Yeah. I can't keep up with this shit. Like, I'm not playing 40K, but I have no idea how I could. If I wanted, right? And if I put time aside to do it, I wouldn't have time to keep up with shit even.
Well, I think the key thing is that I don't think they expect you, and you're not expected to keep up with it. You're not expected to know unless you're Icarus. You don't know every rule in all of the books. Yeah. You are just expected to know your book and then how the rules work.
Yeah, I understand that. But then
you trust that everyone else is doing things legitimately.
No, what I don't. That's not what I mean. What I don't get is that. Okay, how can I explain this? That I couldn't even Okay, so obviously they want me to buy models, right? They bring out cool models. They want me to buy it, right?
Yeah.
But if I was actively buying stuff and I had more time for hobby, I was painting stuff and whatever. I wouldn't in my current with work and stuff, and that not being my only hobby. I can't even keep up with what they're really. I don't even know what cool models coming out. They're releasing so much that I can't just can't go to Games Workshop store every 2 weeks.
The expectation, I don't think, is that you buy it, because it's just unreasonable to do that. Because if you just decide that, okay, I'm gonna be a Dark Angel player, there's the Dark Angels release cycle when the Codex comes out, and then there's the models that come out, and then that's literally it. They don't release things that are not for your army outside of the couple of months window around the Codex release. It just doesn't happen. So there hasn't been a new Space Marine, core Space Marine thing in ages, because that's happened now. So there'll be a burst of activities, a flurry of things coming out. But even then, they sort of get announced weekly for about 4 weeks, and then they come out, and that's it. So if you just decided that you're this is the army I'm doing, I think that would be quite easy to follow. If you decide that you have multiple armies, that gets more complicated. And if you decide that you're going to buy things that look pretty, that's a dangerous rabbit hole, because the quality of miniatures, the new stuff that's coming out, is really, really high. So.
Yeah, it's just I just feel generally overwhelmed. It's a general feeling, and I have this. I get what Mike's saying, that maybe we're getting too old, but on the other hand, they have noticeably stepped up their amount of releases. If you compare this to 5 years ago. They have. I guess there's business reasons for it.
They broke into, what was it, the FTSE 50, top 50 or something.
They broke $1 billion evaluation, I think. Yeah. And they paid out money to their employees, £5 million.
£5 million in total in bonus to their employees, right? I mean, Games Workshop have never been as successful as they are right now.
Yeah, never. I would much prefer this scenario where it's oh my god, there's all these cool. There's if there might be too many models for me to keep up with. I would much rather that than a slow and then here's there's a new book once every quarter. That I would prefer less, because I don't know, it kind of it's a thing I mentioned in the last show about games that don't get active support from the publishers don't seem to live and feel fresh, and people want to feel fresh because it's good. So it's a much better place. I guess I'm quite. I'm quite plugged into the kind of. I listen to podcasts, and I also listen to things about Age of Sigmar. And yeah, I get that like every week there's something new. There's always something new on the Warhammer community, but like, I feel like I am able to like read the thing and be like, oh, that's cool, and then just forget about it because it's like, it's not Space Marines. I don't care. I'm not really going to buy it. So I guess probably the attitude you have to take to remain sane in the hobby.
Yeah, but the thing is, and this is a reoccurring thing for me when I talk about this thing, is I don't like. It's good that they, it's good for the company that they are successful, right? But I don't really I don't work for them. I'm not a stockholder. I don't really care about that. I just look at and we're going to talk about this I think later when we're going to talk about the children's books. I just have a feeling that them pushing it isn't necessarily better for what I'm interested in, which is the fiction and stuff. But
I mean, equally, that's not gone away.
The thing is not. I'm not saying it's going away. I'm saying it's getting worse. It's the quality. It's not doing. It's the same feeling I've had about the Horus Heresy books for a while, where I think if they'd done less books, that'd be better books generally, overall. You know what I mean? They're stretching out the content a bit too much.
Yeah. I know. I think personally they had a patch probably about 5 to 6 years ago where, I think I know what you mean there. That it just kind of mushroomed a bit too much or something.
I guess you can maybe reframe it in that there's a kind of strategy where every faction, every kind of thing you want to see in the books gets their time in the limelight. Like, you get, if you really cared about this niche thing that happened in the Horus Heresy, or there's this faction, you will eventually get a book about it, and you will be really, really pleased. But if you do not care about it, you just need to skip. Consuming all of it is futile. They put them out so quickly.
Yeah.
It would have to be your job to do it.
Yeah.
So I would agree. I would. I mean, it's entirely biased to what I like, right? So I would much rather it were the Horus Heresy was far more stuck to the main plot line of stuff that was happening, machinations, sort of the political stuff, rather than the bolter-porn tangents they went on. I'd really like it if the Beckwin trilogy got continued or finished or anything. I want Aaron Dembski-Bowden to write the third book in the Black Legion thing. There's the kind of the big things, the things that Fab would describe as the high quality, good stuff. I would rather see, one or two of those a year than the vast quantity of niche things where you get to hear here's Andy Smiley's book on the Flesh Terrors, which I really like, but I fully accept that someone who isn't a massive fan of Gabriel Seth wouldn't care. I mean, there's that, but I mean, it's clearly working for them, so why would they stop? Everyone gets their time in the limelight of it.
Yes, it's clearly working for them now. I'm more concerned with what it does to their fan base and to the general way of doing things. Just because it's working now, it doesn't mean it's in general better.
I don't know, because I think right now it's bigger than it's ever been.
Yes, but so is Star Wars, and I don't care about that anymore.
You, so that's fine. So everyone else.
Yeah, but I don't want
more happy
Dave. I don't care about what other I don't care about their stock revenue. I care about if it is for me. I want it to be for me. I think that's a normal kind of thing, right? If Star Wars it's getting more, it's better. It's getting more people are buying stuff, and it's better for Disney or whatever. What do I care if I don't like it anymore because it turned into something I don't like,
I think there is a crossroads with Warhammer at the moment where I agree with Dave that you probably just have to go, I like this part, and I will continue to look at this part of it, and the rest is noise, because if I even try, then I'll be overwhelmed. I sympathize with the.
That's just not my thing, I like to read everything, all the lore.
I mean, Games Workshop have stated now that it says loud and clear that they are a wargaming figurine company, right? They make models, everything else around it is the supporting vehicle to sell
Yeah, sure.
figurines, right? And I think I think we've spoken about this before, where we were a little bit like, what is it they want. It's clear now that they're going like, that's what we do. We produce wargaming figurines. So you have to kind of take it from that's their baseline. This is our core competency, and everything else is supports that, right? And I mean, what you're saying, Fab, I think it's very interesting, and we probably then could actually make the path into talking about Warhammer Adventures, right? Because what got us into Warhammer in the first place? And today I actually sat and I sort of went down memory lane, and I was like, okay, what triggered my interest in this when I was 12 or 13?
Yeah, so I don't know how that was for you, but like I got into 40k with the books, right, with lore. I'm not quite sure if it was books or if it just bought a codex to read stuff. I think that was probably it.
Yeah, it's quite similar for me, and I remember it so well because in Denmark, when you take your Holy Communion, in Denmark, the Protestant thing is that you do it around 13 years of age, and we have something called Blue Monday, which is basically the Monday after the Sunday where you've been to church and had your communion and all that. Then after the party, you have money that people have given you as a present, and then you go with your friends from that generation. You go shopping or you go to like a fun fair or something, but you go by yourself basically, or that's how it was when I was a kid. So here I am, like hillbilly from down south in Zealand. We go into sort of the Copenhagen area into a shopping mall, and there I walk past this bookshop, and I see the front page of the Warhammer 40k compilation, which is I've posted a picture that you see in the show notes, which is basically it's the Blood Angels fighting Tyranids, and there's Terminators and
the guy in the front looks like a Stormcast, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. There's Chaplain. There's like a Golden Host type Space Marine in the center.
He looks like a Stormcast.
Yeah, it's a glorious picture. It immediately just sucked me in because it's a fantastic illustration, and I still have the book somewhere here in my bookshelves, and it's a compilation of different White Dwarf articles that expanded the rules for Warhammer 40k. I don't think they had even gone to second edition at that point. I'm not sure, but basically I didn't know anything about it other than I just liked it. It looked awesome, and I read that compilation back and forth so many times. I knew all the pictures, I knew everything that they wrote about it. There was rules for what later became the Genestealer cults in there. There was stuff about Eldar and Slanesh. The way the Eldar would be gobbled up by the Slaneshi demons, and there was chaos stuff in there. It was glorious. It's just that opened a lot for me. And at the time, I was an avid gamer as well. Obviously, gaming in '92 was still in its infancy in a way, right? But I was reading like English gaming magazines that I had like a subscription on it. And there I saw that they had Space Crusade, the game, which was basically a version of the board game as a computer game. And I started sort of combining my interest in that, where it was both there's computer games for it, and there's board games, and and everything I could find I would sort of just grab it. But imagine in 1992 how difficult it is to get stuff that's English and available when you live an hour away from the capital in a small country like Denmark. I mean, I really had to trawl everywhere where I went to try and find stuff. This is pre-internet, right? Like, if you can imagine, if you're not of that generation, like how difficult it was to actually get books, magazines, even the models and stuff like that, because if you went to the local game shop, you would have to nearly sort of ask for stuff to be ordered, or they wouldn't even be able to, right? So I was very lucky a couple of years later that my dad was traveling a lot and we went to England, and I actually made an order with a Games Workshop store. We went to Edinburgh, I think it was. So they had like a huge box sitting there for me that I had made a postal order for this stuff that was sitting there waiting for me. I mean, it was that kind of interest I had, and I was really passionate about it. But it all came from just seeing this one image, right? And I think Dave, you probably have a story as well about how you got into Warhammer. So, we'll finish off with you, and then we'll move on to the.
Is I definitely didn't get into it with the books. I didn't read a book in the Black Library until I was about 16, 17. At which point I'd already sort of played Warhammer, got out of the hobby, and then was getting back into the hobby. I got into it because my cousin, who I have all this Warhammer from,
yes, full circle.
He's 2 years older than me, so kind of hit the phase of when people that age want to play Warhammer. And then I went to his house. I saw at the time I think they're Blood Angels, because I mean he has Death Company, right? So there must be Blood Angels. I saw his Blood Angels, like, these are really, really, really cool. What the fuck are these? And then, like, shortly afterwards, it was my birthday. So they gave me some metal Space Marine Scouts, which I got into. I painted those as Ultramarines, even back then, because I was just copying the box. And then the Lord of the Rings stuff happened, because I had about that time. So that I'd finished reading Lord of the Rings by the time the first film came out. So, like, yeah, about 2001-ish. And when the films came out, they sort of announced, that there's Lord of the Rings Warhammer. There was a TV advert for the Lord of the Rings, like, Warhammer magazine, which was like one of those magazine. collect like all the things to build a ship, except it was like just sort of read about Warhammer every 2 weeks, and then they gave you models and miniatures, and they gave you a little like set of like players and stuff. It was great. So I got into that, subscribed to that, got the box sets, and then that was basically it, like, until I got back into 40k when I was 16, 17, when I just thought of like, oh, you know what, these Space Marines, I remember painting those and they were quite fun, and then got into the lore. So I got in, so the opposite around, like, I got into the lore because of the models, because they looked like cool toy soldiers.
Yeah.
And ultimately, like, I think if it had just been 40k, like, I remember reading the rule book, and there's this guy with this big burn on his face, and it was like, rad. But I don't think, like, 9, like, whatever, however ridiculously too young I was for 40k, as it was then, I don't think I'd have stuck with it, to be honest, because it was a bit weird. I didn't really get the jokes. It was the fact that there was Lord of the Rings happening, which was something I was already super into, that got me to like tiny models an unhealthy amount. So that's where I came from.
Yeah, so a bit of a combo of the Warhammer and Lord of the Rings timeline, because I remember where Lord of the Rings was quite significant in the landscape of Games Workshop.
It was big.
I wouldn't say it was 50-50, but it was definitely close. Like,
these days you have like the Hobbit game. Even at the peak of the Hobbit films, it was still just like this side product. But back when the films came out, they were like, it was big. Shops that didn't stock Warhammer had the Lord of the Rings bundles. At least where we were, because like that, I had a Games Workshop like an hour or so away, but I had, we had these like local model shops that sold like remote control plane stuff or like airfix models for planes, and they sometimes had the odd 40k kit in them. But when Lord of the Rings came out, they always had like day one bundles for the big starter sets for the films. They had those. I would go there, or like I'd get them for my birthday, and it would be be great. So yeah, I think it's probably Lord of the Rings' fault that I'm this way.
No, but that's really interesting because it does say something about that time, that period in Games Workshop as well. That obviously Fab and I were from the sort of where it was the law that's reading into the like either White Dwarf or like the rules, and you're sort of more the,
I think
the models.
I remember White Dwarf being a thing that was on shelves, and like you'd read them in the store, because even then they were like £6 magazines, which was just too much. Like parents were like, that's ridiculous. You're not having that, because you'll buy that magazine and want more miniatures. Like you'd read them in the store, right? And so like I didn't really absorb the lore, and I guess I knew all of the lore from Warhammer anyway, because I'd read it and seen the films at this point. So yeah.
I don't think you can know all the lore from Warhammer.
Well, yeah, okay, I knew all of the lore that existed within the Lord of the Rings 3 books. I didn't know the Silmarillion, and I hadn't read The Hobbit at that point. But yeah, it's kind of weird, because like that was a very weird time, because there were adverts for Games Workshop miniatures on TV, which is still a thing we don't have, probably because it's not relevant now, right? Like, there's no need for them to be on TV, because they can just like target like nerds on Facebook with targeted ads, right? But it was not mainstream, but like, people who were watching normal TV could, if they're paying attention to adverts, they would be vaguely aware that there was this miniatures game. Which is kind of cool.
But that's the thing, like a lot of people remember the Space Crusade TV ad. I never saw it myself, right? But for some people, that's even a first memory for them, right? That's they were watching I don't know, Transformers or something, and here's then the ad break with this game with Space Marines and aliens,
Which I mean, the TV slot for that, and the stylings of it, the kind of it's kind of like the advert for Hero Quest thing. Is it Hero Quest? The Barbarian. It's explicitly like targeted to kids who are watching cartoons, right? It's kids playing those games. It's literally the same shit. That was they're all irking kind of Dungeons and Dragons miniatures, which for better or for worse, kids games, right? So
so there you go. Like we're looking at the next generation of interest, right? And obviously, Games Workshop have gone, we're going to make these Warhammer Adventures comic books, one based in the Age of Sigmar and the other one in the 40k universe. And they're going to have young protagonists, tweens,
Why?
Was it 10, 12?
Why?
Controversy alert.
Okay.
Aren't they aimed even lower? Aren't they aimed even younger?
It's not like, let me preface this, okay? I know why.
Yes.
I know the business reasons. I don't care about those. I know how capitalism works.
At the podcast.
I know how capitalism works. I know why they are doing it, right? I don't care about that. What I care about is the fiction. We established that I like the lore. That's the thing I care about. So my thing is like Age of Sigmar. I don't know. The lore doesn't grab me. I don't know if that's germane to do that. With 40k, I'm thinking they created a universe when they created it to be explicitly the darkest, dreariest, most dangerous, bloodthirsty universe you could imagine. That's what I always liked about it, even as a kid. Like I read the adult stuff when I was a kid, right? And I really like that. So I'm thinking, like, if you think about Black Library fiction, and I think all of us were at Black Library Live, I think, or the Weekender, I don't know, where they were talking about writing Black Library, like writing 40k fiction or Black Library fiction in general, and how it's weird, how you can have all this violence, right? But one of the rules is like you never have violence against civilians or unarmed.
Yeah, so I think Games Workshop have
kids.
gratuitous gratuitous violence or whatever it's called, where it's violence for violence' sake.
It doesn't happen to people,
sort of
but
very graphic description. Yeah.
Violence still happens to civilians, and it happens all the time. Like, so that's the thing I've been thinking about. In that, like, the way we were always sort of paraphrasing them is that like civilians don't get hurt or injured. No, civilians get hurt and injured on like ridiculous.
No, they
unimaginable, like the burning of Prospero.
No. That you misunderstand them. They get hurt in the background, but it's not explicitly described. Like, it's described, Space Marines hacking each other apart with chainswords is described. But you will not see, even in the burning of Prospero, you will not see, like, a woman with her child walking along the road, and then, like, some Terminator goes splat.
You do in one of the more recent ones, like, they have totally gone back on this. Like, there's
in all the stuff I've read, I haven't seen this.
There's the guy who psychically makes a mum kill her kid to save the kid.
Yeah.
That rule does not apply anymore. Like,
okay, well, at least that was a rule. That was the thing I was operating under.
Like, what book was that in? Because I feel like people might want to know which book that was in. Because it was one of the recent ones where there's the there's all of the people being held, and it's in the
Yeah, it's the one with Sanguinius, isn't it?
No, it's the one with the one with Magnus, where they're trying to like collect his soul shards. And the Red King, the Crimson King. It's in the Crimson King. One of the people, so they've got all the people from Prospero who they'd captured because like. Sorry, kind of that shoots down the thing they did.
That notwithstanding, to go back to my point, this is a universe which is extremely violent, where violence is described, but generally not against civilian population in detail. Generally, I mean, it is not like, if you think about 40K, about the universe, right, and compare that to, I don't know, say World War II, and the shit that happened there against civilian population, that you could put that in a 40K book, but then not doing that, right? Because you don't want to read that. I mean, you're operating under the assumption, and they say this explicitly in a lot of books, that this universe is not, there's nobody having fun in this. It's like a normal
Again, that doesn't hold, because like even in Dan Abnett's.
Well, this holds. There might be one guy who has.
There are like like all of the sort of like upper class people, they're having a wonderful time. The middle class people are.
No, I don't think they're all having a wonderful time. They're getting shot on.
They're living in the top of the hives. They're having a decent life.
But like, even they might get just somebody says, "Well, you're a traitor," and you get shot.
Like, it's not. I think it's a massive exaggeration when people it's the 41st millennium and there's only war is a massive exaggeration, because there are plenty of things where it's in this horrible universe, but like people generally just go about their lives. There are entire swathes of human population maybe never seen chaos, don't know what
maybe
they just sort of live a bit pants a bit.
Maybe we're at a point again where you have just read newer books, and I mean, we talked about this earlier. I think Mike will understand this. Maybe I just read older stuff, and maybe I'm operating under what the 40K fiction used to be 10 years ago.
Well, no, because I mean I'm quoting the Dan Abnett's Eisenhorn trilogy, which came out 10 years plus ago.
But you have to remember, Dave, as well, that Dan Abnett actually took a lot of liberties from where the universe was at the time.
But
then he has shaped it.
I don't think you can argue that it has always been terrible when the normal.
That is the point of the universe.
No, you can't argue that it's unanimously shit, because it has been the canon.
I am arguing that
it has been the pinnacle of the books. There were people living ordinary lives in the book that we all recommend to read first because it's great.
But this is Horus Heresy. This is not the 40K time frame.
It's the 40K. It's the Eisenhorn series. It happens in.
Well, I haven't read that book. I'm telling you that there is literally codexes, and I can dig them out over the last 20 years, where they explicitly say in the source books In describing the universe, you open the book and they tell you what the 40k universe is, and they basically say, literally, this is a universe where everything is shit, where a normal human being doesn't live they live maybe 30 years, right? If they're lucky, they have a kid, and then they die in a horrible factory because they're making munitions all day for the Imperial Army, and they get shipped off, and then the kids get shipped off, and then that's what they said in the source books.
You have the selection bias of it's a codicy about like a faction of the military, but also it's the premise to set the scene. It's itself an exaggeration.
Yes, but the whole universe is an exaggeration. I mean, it was.
But it's more so like you can't. You take the title of the game. It's the 41st Millennium. There is only war. There is a whole lot of not war. So either it's an exaggeration or it's factually incorrect, and we should be querying the subtitle of the game.
I'm not talking about the subtitle of the game. I'm talking about the spirit of when they created this universe. Okay, it's a parody in some respects, but they created it. They created it explicitly because they went like, what's 2000 AD? Well, that's horrible. Let's make something that's more horrible on the galactic scale.
But it evolved to be something more than just everything's fucking terrible all the time, literally unanimously across the universe.
But I mean, let's look at the background from whence it arose. I think there's a lot of even like if you look at that like Thatcher era. Sort of angst, societal angst.
Yeah, Cold War kind of stuff, right?
Cold War being exploited by the ruling powers and stuff like that. It's the 80s were very, very juxtaposed as a decade, I think, where you had lots of progress within certain things, and in other areas like social structure and sort of if we talk the UK, you can see it. When you read the first few books, like the Space Marine one, the Inquisitor trilogy, and all that. I mean that is extremely 80s grimdark, which is for
I guess what I like.
Yeah. No, but I love those books because they are sometimes extremely weird in a way, and very sort of, none of the characters are really sort of good in a sense,
That's exactly what I liked about this universe. This is why it grabbed me, and Dave, I'm completely I concede that it is changing, and I guess that is just the thing I'm reacting to. For me, it is just extremely weird to have a universe where, like, the standard weapon, right, is a pistol that is bigger than your forearm and shoots what's the caliber on a bolter again?
Jeebus, yeah.
What bolter? I'll look this up because we need to get that right. So the caliber on a bolter is .75. So
if you get hit by one, you'll be vaporized, basically.
Yeah, it's a rocket propelled huge round, right? So this is the standard weapon of war in this universe. This is what everything's based on. So it's extremely violent, and I grant you that there's places where people live in harmony, and it's great because they're the upper class and they don't know that chaos exists or whatever. But chaos does exist, right? Tyranids do exist. People get eaten, they get flayed, they get hit by these weapons. It's extremely violent. And my original point, which started all of this, was just, that is not a universe I would set a children's book in. You can do that, but why would you? Aside from just making money.
It's going to be like... my prediction is going to be like, here are maybe some kids and they do some heroic stuff, but it's going to be from the point of view of someone who didn't die, right? So imagine it's Harry Potter, except it's like the main character is a person who just gets killed by Death Eaters in like the first book and nothing happens. Or it's like it's Lord of the Rings and the protagonists are people who just get like murdered by like fucking goblins or whatever. Like, it's going to be a heroic tale of some kids or kid-friendly characters overcoming adversity, which to be fair, is a common theme of the books. It's Eisenhorn overcoming adversity in a kind of darker way. They'll just brush over things. They won't go into... It'll be like someone gets chopped down. They don't be like, oh, and then he put the sword through the eyeball and it exploded. Like, it's just going to be a way of phrasing and framing things in a different way.
Let me just interject here as well, because it's very, very good point, Dave. And you hit the nail completely on the head there, that this is a standard trope for this age and for any kind of franchise to make the stories like that. I mean, it's par for the course. So if you look at the person who's gonna take it on, Kevin Scott, right? He's a safe pair of hands in this, because he does exactly the same stuff for Doctor Who, for Star Wars. He's really successful author within licensed universes, right? He knows how to do this, and he himself he's been treated really badly, actually. I mean, I don't know if you follow him on Twitter. You should. He's very informative, and
I would. I can't follow any more people because Twitter's shit.
So basically, Kevin Scott was saying last week that he's been surprised by the amount of vitriol that he's been subjected to, right?
I think people need me as a consultant, because I could tell them beforehand.
Everyone just having Fab's opinions.
Yeah, but I mean,
I'll brainstorm this for you. I'll make up the worst stuff that could happen, so you're prepared.
And the thing is, Fab, I know you would never go to Kevin Scott's website and say, I hope you get cancer because you're being willing to do this, right? I mean, you're just saying, okay, this is not what I got into back in the day, and it's not what I'm
not even saying that. Like the thing is, I'm saying, I'm also not saying it can't be done. It can't be done. I think it can be done, and he's probably the right guy to do it. I'm just saying, like, the thing is yes, you can do that, but I'm not saying this as a literary device. I don't fundamentally understand why you would, because this is my perspective, right? It's just my perspective. You're dressing up a universe that is something as something else to get people to read about it. But if they read more, like, they'll at some point they read the other stuff, right? So they might as well read the other. Maybe I'm weird because I was young, right? And I read the grown-up stuff, and I think, okay, you will get people disputing this, but I don't think it hurt me in any way. But maybe I'm what I am because of that.
I mean, you're this positive, proactive individual that loves change in the world, right?
The thing is, I've never thought I don't like change. It's just.
I think you hate change.
I wouldn't say that.
I would say, from a data-driven approach, you definitely did.
I just just think, objectively looking at things, change. I sound like Joe Ressing now. I mean, change is often just bad. It's not always good. It's like, I want a good reason for this to happen, and the reason is not we're making money or this guy can do it. That is not a good reason to do this.
But let's say
it's a great story would be a good reason to do that, and okay, I give him the benefit of the doubt on that. But like, I don't think it's gonna be a good story for me because it's not aimed at me, right? That wouldn't make.
Yeah. So why would you read it, right?
I'm not gonna read it. Like,
no, you don't have to.
And I'm not saying he shouldn't do it. Do it. Whatever. I'm just saying I don't get it. I wouldn't do it.
Between 13-year-old me picking up a copy of the Warhammer 40k compilation that talks about aliens that plant eggs inside their hosts and turn them into willing slaves for their global domination of a planet, and chaos demons that eat somebody's soul and things like that. What is the difference between that and then a 13-year-old person picking up Warhammer Adventures, or 12-year-old?
Exactly. Because you grew up into a normal, nice person,
that's
and not a fucking stupid.
You give these books to, like, a 7-year-old, and it spawns a lifelong hobby in Warhammer. That's great. You give it to Fab, he doesn't read it, and everyone's happy. Like,
Yeah, but why don't no? But what do you gain? Like, what do you gain from that person getting that at 7 instead of waiting till they're 13?
I don't know. I'd argue I didn't really do a lot before Warhammer. I'd very much have liked.
You can wait those few years. It's not like
that's bollocks. No, that's bullshit. Just give it now. Problem solved. Also, they'll have like a 4-year head start on painting.
Yeah,
like,
but they'll have a no, because they won't get the painting because they're like miniatures of people of things laying eggs into something.
No, that's not that exists.
Like if I was a parent.
No, they'll pick up the Stormcast box set. It's lovely heroic people.
Let's not get into Age of Sigmar. Okay, that's a whole.
Ultramarines and paint them as noble space.
Let's not get into Ultramarines. Okay,
We'll save that nuclear meltdown for another.
If I was a parent, right, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but if I
wouldn't let them read it, but wait until you're older. No, it's fine.
No, if I was a parent, I wouldn't think that's a good idea. No, I'd rather give my child the adult stuff way earlier than other parents think. Than something like this, because I do not get the purpose. It's not like, okay, it's a few years earlier, but it's not actual that universe. And once they get into reading, no, it can't be that. You yourself said they're gonna leave stuff out. They're gonna have to leave. There won't be any people getting chopped in the head by chainsaws in that.
It could well be.
I don't like if they do that. If they do that, I recant everything I've said today. If there's people getting graphically limbs chopped off in this, that'll be great.
It's all going to be implied, right? That's how things work. Have you ever seen Watership Down? It's this.
Yeah, there's shit. That is shit.
No, it's so full of shit. No, shut up.
Why would you imply something if you could actually?
It's a kids' TV show where lots of horrific things happen that you showed to kids and they were fine. I grew up on it. People like 20 years older than me grew up on it and they're fine. So it's all going to be fine, Fab.
Yeah, but you're not doing that because you want to tell a great story. You do that because you want to aim the story at a certain audience and you have to make concessions. You can do that. If you want to do that, I'm just saying, why do you want to make concessions? Why don't you want to tell the story you want to tell?
Because it's the story they want to tell.
One is that
no, they don't want to tell that. They just get money for that. Sorry.
Oh my gosh, it's so funny.
Mike is
right,
sorry.
Two
points.
Two things.
Yeah.
They're saying that yes, of course, canonically, if that's a word, it's gonna be a bit to the side, right? So that's one thing. They know that. But Kevin Scott is also saying that listen, the characters will develop, and at a certain point, we will get into the sort of like it's maybe not gonna go exactly as you think, right? So he is saying that I'm getting this kind of, again, if we're comparing to Harry Potter vibe or something like that, where, the thing that happened with Harry Potter was that as the series progressed, the original readers obviously grew up, and I'm kind of getting the vibe from them that they know that they will, if they get a following, they will sort of transition into the grimdark, right?
So it will be that meme where they end up just on spikes. Did you see that meme?
I mean,
on the Chaos Space Marine?
No, I haven't seen that. But
so it was basically, you remember these kids? You know the cover of that book, and then see where they are now. It's like a picture of the Chaos Space Marine with like that skull rack, and there's like 3 skulls on the spikes. So this is them now.
But the thing is as well, like, right? Okay, we've all gotten into this at around that age, right? That they are targeting.
Right.
And as you say, we're all sitting here, we're being perfectly civil, and according to most people, we live sort of fairly regular lives, right? And we're not serial killers.
Well, I won't say that, but I haven't killed a person. Let's put it that way. So I've got that going for me.
So in a way, it's like, how can you define this, right? Because like when I'm looking at my son, he just turned 10. He had started reading Lord of the Rings before he turned 10, and he finished it just as he had turned 10, right? I only started reading Lord of the Rings when I was 13, and he has finished it 3 years before I ever did. And I'm just going like, wow. And I couldn't keep it from him if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
Like,
in this day and age, you can't really.
It's just like, and Lord of the Rings it's a fantastic piece of literary history. I think it's one of the foundations of what we all love, right? So I'm like, why should I not let him read that if he's able to read it and he wants to?
Yeah, I'm completely with you.
And the same thing is like, I'm thinking of 13-year-old me going there, using my own money that I got in this Holy Communion, gift, that I could buy this thing, and it didn't say no, you're not allowed to, right? On it. So there will probably be ones that will go straight into the Grimdark, as we did.
And good for them.
And good for them. and I think there will be a market for this. There will, because like that's why they've chosen Cavan Scott, because that's what they're doing with Star Wars, Doctor Who, other licenses as well. It's working. They can sell it. There's a huge market out there for it. And I know we don't really care about the market side thing, because obviously we feel there's some kind of, I don't know, educational part here to our psyche. But that's the whole point, isn't it? If somebody's attracted to it and it's not illegal or deviant, then this is just like a proto nerd waiting to emerge, right?
Yeah.
No, but that's it. Like, we want more of them, right? I mean, we want more
20 years
people
time,
like us,
I'll
don't
start a podcast. I'll be talking about
Yeah.
Warhammer, and then I'll start moaning about how kids.
As they should, Dave, because they are right. They will be
essentially
right. They will
we want-
carry the torch long after I'm dead.
No, but don't we want that?
I want that.
Like,
Yeah.
we can put that question to our listeners. Don't you want people to carry the flame? Geeky and weird as it is, but isn't that a good thing?
I think I'm just saying. Okay, having thought about all of this, right? I think I'm just irked, mostly with Dave, because I feel like the only reason they're doing this is money, right? They have money. They don't do this because it's the best for the fiction. They don't do this because it's best for the kids.
Breaking news. That's how companies work.
Yeah, that's how companies work, and this is why we are allowed to criticize them on this. I mean, I'm not saying that we're journalists here. Or this is the press, but that was kind of what the press like. That's what I made my mission in life. Yeah. If it's only that.
The thing is,
to criticize children's books.
No, to criticize companies for doing stuff just because they make money of it.
So,
for
what
example,
you're saying, Fab, is what you would want a company to do is to be passionate about something.
No.
Care. No, listen. Hear me
okay.
out. So
yeah.
What I'm hearing is that you say that you want somebody to do something, in this case, very geeky and niche in a way. And if they make money off it, that's great. But you want them to do it for the soul of whatever the thing is, rather than a business perspective.
Yes.
That must be your argument then.
Well, no, actually, yes. So let me explain this. So yes, that is in essence is my argument, but I know that's futile, right? I know that Dave's right, and I know that that's not how companies work. That's how companies will never work. And I completely know that's futile, but I still want to say it. Like, I'm not doing that. I guess that jump that Dave's doing, when I say that is bad, he says, well, that's just how it is and it's how it works. And that, I'm not making that jump. I'm saying, yes, it's bad. I want to at least say it's bad, even if it doesn't do anything.
So you're like Don Quixote, really?
Basically, yeah. Why do you think my motorbike's called Rocinante?
That's perfect. I can just see you flailing against the window.
Yes, you could say that. I'm a bit like that, and I'm just pissed off with Dave for always going, yeah, they're doing that. It's good. Like, he's the guy who
like, this is not bad in any way.
I'm completely pissed off with you, Dave, because you're always the guy going on about socialism and shit, right? But you're the first guy to say, yeah, that's how companies work. Just let him do it. No, that's not how socialism works. You need to shout. You need to be on the barricades and burn shit down, man.
Yeah, but like during.
Why am I doing your job? I'm a conservative, for God's sake.
He's a house owner now. He's a Tory in waiting.
Oh, I want to see him be a Tory.
Arguing arguing that they shouldn't make a book for children is not an effective means of seizing production. What we should be doing is taking all of Jeff Bezos' money. That's what you do.
That's communism. That's not socialism. Seizing the means of production.
This is sharp. That's the logical conclusion. Is in that it's such a minor thing to care about.
That was a Marx quote, wasn't it? Shut up.
Shut up. Ice pick to the head.
But the thing is, Fab, at least we know that a reactionary, grumpy old man facade that you keep up,
it's actually genuine. It's not like a parody.
And the thing is, you're not going to be one of these bloody gatekeepers that will go to the end of the world to make other people's lives miserable about this, right?
But they are dumb as well, Exactly, they haven't seen that it's futile, and the companies do what they do because they make money, and as an internet troll, you won't stop them.
No, but that's the thing, because that's where my bicycle chain falls off, as we say in Denmark. That's an expression where,
now you have to say it in Danish.
Yeah, der falder min kæde af. So basically,
it's amazing.
The chain on the bicycle spoke falls to the ground when I start thinking about this, because it's like, how much toxicity in your soul do you need to sort of keep in a reservoir to actually actively go out to try and stop somebody else from enjoying this, and it's a real problem that I think we can park that for another day, because this will open all sorts of other discussions, right? But there's a lot of stuff on social media now where it's all about just a zero-sum game, right? If I can't have what my little box was when I was happy, then I will spoil it for everybody else. And I just find it extremely sad.
I get that, but on the other hand, I don't understand how you can be like an author on the internet today and like not expect that. And why do you even care? That's my question. Like, okay, if I came to Games Workshop and I don't know how this came about, but like, let's say we figure out this thing where I'm going to write 40k children's books, right?
Yes.
I don't understand how getting into this project, I do not anticipate the worst to come out of this from the internet, from the cheap seats. I mean, it's absolutely obvious.
It's someone comes along and they're trying to do something in a Warhammer or Wargaming kind of context, and they don't just expect like the shittest human being.
Well, it's not only
there are a lot of people in Warhammer who I would lump in that like.
I don't think it has anything to do with Warhammer or Wargaming or whatever. I think there's
a lot of assholes.
No, yeah, but that's the thing I've been saying for 10 years of doing podcasts. Everybody's an asshole. It has nothing to do with the, like, I hate these people going, oh, the gaming community. It's not the fucking gaming community. It's anything.
It's the type of person. Yeah.
Talk to normal people who do, I don't know, fucking knitting. Or they're in a sailing club. Like, what kind of experience they have with people? Oh, that's not the kind of rigging you put on a sailboat. It's been human nature forever. The problem, the difference, just the internet just brings it out.
And there's so much more opportunities.
It's just easier to do.
Yeah, exactly.
But maybe I'm just not normal because I'm a journalist and I've gotten into this job understanding that that's what it is, because I have to face it every day. And I have absolutely zero respect, for example, for journalists who go on about, oh, you get hate mail in the forums. It's like, oh, can't read the comments on my article. That's your fucking job. You knew that how can you not know that when you got into that job, unless you're like 40 years old? That's like saying, that's like becoming a policeman and then going, oh, I go out in the street and I handcuff people and I get hate.
They try to hit me, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You knew that when you took the fucking job.
I think the hard-boiled journalist is a rare beast these days, definitely, and I have a lot of sympathy for that.
Maybe it is. I don't know.
Yeah. No, but I think like the thing is, as long as we call stuff out when we see it, right? I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? Because this is our arena. This is where we enjoy our time and the hobbies we have and all that, and that's, I think it's important to just go, okay, we can always try to be better. With regards to being inclusive, making sure people have a good time, raise people up, all these things. And it doesn't matter where you are, you do that, right? where you have your
I'm just saying. The only thing is said about this. I don't get this. I think that's a bad idea. What I could have said is, well, go ahead, But I just thought that sometimes I'm naive. I thought that was just implicit, but maybe it's not.
I don't think naive is the word, Fab. I think
yeah, but I really thought that was. Shtick. But I really thought that was implicit. Like the well, do it. I mean, I can't fucking stop you. That's obvious. Why would I even try?
Yeah. No, I think it's your shtick just to go like, have you considered?
Maybe
but as
it is.
I said, you're definitely not in the category where it's just being no, you can't have this because it doesn't make me happy.
Well, Dave's stick is
we
like
know that,
Dave's stick is like, that's what happens. That's capitalism. Something happens in the world. Well, that's capitalism.
We have to give Dave the credit for being the most in tune person, because we are
he
the
is.
old grumpy assholes. You and I, Fab. We are. Although I'm maybe more diplomatic than you are, I think. Maybe.
Yeah. Also, you're not really grumpy, are you?
Oh, I can be very grumpy, but I
hide it well.
I hide it well, exactly.
Yeah.
No, but I think it's been really, really good to go down memory lane with you guys, look at this, and as I said there, we're not poking you just to get you to say stupid things, Fab. It's a good.
You don't have to.
no, but it's a good point to just go like, we're a community, right? And now all of a sudden there's this bridge being made to go. We want more very young people to come into this fandom, which it is. It's a fandom, right? And what we hear is like there's concerns going like, okay, do you really want to introduce tweens to chainsaw violence and things like that? It's well placed, I think, but on the other hand, 30 years ago, this also happened. Like we just picked it up because we were who we were, right? So you kind of have to trust that a bit as well, right?
Yeah, I don't like. That's the thing. That's another thing I don't get. Like, I don't get that whole. Well, is that a good idea? Have you turned on the news? Like, have you seen what's happening in the real world in Syria? And you're worrying about like. This is literature. Like, you're worrying about fantasy books, Have you seen with the president of the United States? Shouldn't you be more worried about that and your kids growing up in that world than fucking Warhammer 40k? Like,
I'm not trying to get more work here, but I will say that I think there's a lot of lines that can be drawn from one of our previous episodes where we talked about social media and Facebook and the whole data scandal and all that. Just saying. We could probably boil a few more hours on that, So,
we should. Anyway, we should. Dave's gone really quiet.
No, but I think he's letting the grumpy guys just sort of reach their conclusion.
Grumble on, just like
grumble on.
Let the old guys figure. They're sitting by the fire.
Maybe he's gone to get more drink. I don't know. Dave, hello. Are you there?
Oh, I'm still here. Yeah.
Oh, right, okay.
Yes. But one thing I want to mention, you put a cover, which I'm going to put in the show notes, of Space Crusade, in the show notes, and I've been looking at that for a long time now, and I think one thing that strikes me is very obvious how that Space Marine on a cover looks like an Imperial Stormtrooper from Star Wars, just in cool. That grill, like the collar on the power armor. Yeah. Also, power armor was a lot smaller back then.
Well, the pauldrons are massive.
Yeah, but still, they're smaller in comparison to the head than they're now. Yeah, and is that a bolter or a bolt pistol? Because it's very small.
Yeah, I mean, looking at it, the scale of things and all, it's
I love that. I love that.
When I was 13 and I saw that, holy fucking Christ, that was.
I remember. So they go back on memory lane, talk about old people, right? So at the beginning, I was like, I didn't start with the novels. I think the first Warhammer novel I picked up was actually a fantasy novel. I think it was called Conrad in German. I don't know what that is. Anyway, so I read codexes first, and they had these like black and white drawings in them. the black and white. They were basically, I think, pencil drawings. And they were so great. Like they blew my mind. Even back then, like with the Tyranids and everything, and we've come so far from that. Yeah. It's actually quite amazing.
But like I can see the pictures that you're saying. Like I can see this was the first time that I saw Terminators, right? I mean, how cool are Terminators still to this day, right? And there's a picture of one Terminator just completely obliterating another Terminator with a thunder hammer, right? He's nearly decapitating him with the explosion from it, and just stuff like that. It just imprinted itself because the visual aesthetic combined with the fluff basically was just so damn good. Like
and it was also like back then it was like it was like they didn't take themselves that seriously, and it was weird and just interesting because of that. I do miss that sometimes.
I'm not sure they take themselves very seriously today either.
But I
think they had a period where they were maybe a little bit more sort of,
but it's a different way of not taking yourself seriously. I mean, I think a big influence is just like the internet. I mean, back then, you were writing this stuff. If you were writing this or a magazine, doesn't matter. You were writing this basically into a black void, and you were, because of that. People would like. I compare this. I still do print journalism and I do online journalism, and it's so different. People are just print journalists are a lot more. They're not as afraid. Like I'm not afraid, but there's like a lot of people who are like online journalists and they're so afraid of the comments.
Because they're instant. Is that how it is? Like
and they're just more like they're just there, and they're just a lot more, and they keep themselves in check. And back then they did a lot more of experimenting and just putting stuff out there, because you might get a letter, but you got a letter like 3 months later. At that point, it was like long printed, and like who cared?
That's a very good point, actually.
And I think also like. I mean, it's to some extent gotten worse, but like if you talk to really old timers, they're like, we got death threats back then. But it's just like it wasn't that easy to be that anonymous, or like people think they're anonymous, And
in a way, Fab, if you have the appetite for it, a Geek News Radio special on journalism, I think would be really great, especially looking at current events, as you were saying.
Oh, we can, I guess I can. The weird thing is, like, I started this thing. I did podcast long before I was a professional journalist, and I never considered myself one. This is weird. And I had this. The first thing is when I moved to Germany. When I was in the UK, I was just doing my job, and I moved to Germany, and I had to get I got a press ID card, right? And that was the first time when I applied somewhere and said, well, I'm actually a journalist. But I didn't really think about it. And a few years ago, I had this thing where it dawned to me, well, yes, you're now a professional journalist. I have no idea how that happened.
But the thing is, like in Denmark, there's a journalism school. Like there's an actual sort of university style.
Yeah, we have that now too. Like we have courses, we have degrees, but
But that's not the way you got into it, right?
Well, traditionally in German, in Germany, and I guess it's the same in the UK. So in Germany, we have protected names, so you can't call yourself so there's a master title, Meister in German. Yeah. So if you're a plumber, you have to have an apprenticeship. And then, or if you're a doctor, that would be the same in the UK. If you can't just say I'm a doctor, right? You have to have and a journalist is just something you can call yourself. So in Germany, if you have a blog, you can just say I'm a journalist. You can just say you're a journalist anyway, because nobody's policing that.
It's a bit like the US then, in a way.
Yeah, to me, it was always like a state of mind. At some point, I got this state of mind, and I thought, well, now I am a journalist, and I will have to adhere to those rules, right? To those unspoken and in some cases written down rules. And it's still a bit weird when we do this shit, because like even if we talk about news and Dave and me talking about news a lot, but like I don't consider that journalism. It probably is. I don't know. We'll have to have a show on this at some point.
I think that definitely there's a lot of stuff to grab from what's happening in the world today on what is good journalism, bad journalism, where what is the stuff that really makes the world tick, and what is just sort of I don't know, lobbying in a way or something, or like special interest opinions, that kind of
advertising basically.
There's a lot of questions to ask.
Maybe you should talk about this on a future show, and we'll have you on, and we like if the listeners want to have questions, send in, then just send them in, and I'll collect them for the show. Maybe you want to yell at me and let's like show me things that I've done that aren't journalism or something. I don't know.
That's not why I suggested it, but
I'm up for that. I put my work out there. This is the kind of thing. This is why when we talk about these books, and I know what these people are going to some extent, because if you do something like this, if you're a writer, you put your stuff out there. I mean, it's an ego-driven job. You do this because you have an ego. You can't tell me you don't.
Your ego has to anchor what you write. I mean, because otherwise it'll just be bland, right?
Yes, and you have to also. It is kind of your shell against all the hate.
As well, yeah.
It has to be, otherwise you can't do this. Anyway, Dave's falling asleep over there.
He's falling asleep, I think. Yeah.
Do you want to talk? Yeah, I mean, yeah. Let's do it. Let's do that.
I've spent too much time, but I think if you're happy enough to have me back.
Don't ask this shit. Whenever you want, just give me a call.
I'll just say to our dear listeners, I wanted to talk about some Black Library books, but I'll read some more, and then we'll do a book.
Yes, we will do that. And don't say if we want you back. Of course, we want you back.
I know. I'm just joking.
I'm working on getting you exchanged for Dave. If you can't tell.
Yeah,
fab. That's just that was under the belt.
I know.
Nobody can replace Dave.
It's not true, because I need somebody to rage against.
I'm a pretty good person for that, right?
You're the machine.
Oh no!
I mean,
I rage against the machine. Come on.
No, I don't want to be the machine.
Killing in the name of.
We had Dave. We had one bit of feedback since the last episode, which is amazing because we did the last episode yesterday. It's from Junkyard
Well, we
Sam.
recorded it yesterday. Yes.
Yeah, that's a peek behind the curtains. No, so it's from Junkyard Sam, who tangentially did add some amazing bonus tattoo art.
Oh, this was great. Yeah, I posted a picture of my new tattoo, and he just like had recommendations of what to do next.
Yeah, he basically just gave you like a full body tattoo. It was hilarious, and also like really good. Like it's good, and he
is great. I think he is he's like a games illustrator, correct?
Games concept art.
And right now he's doing a children's book, and I'm gonna put this picture he posted into the show notes, like the tweet, and just check out his Twitter, Junkyard Sam. He's continuously posting pictures of his
and he is. Also
of his children's book.
It's really good on Instagram too.
Yeah, he's amazing. He's just, oh my god.
But he writes an email. So it's about Dave's run on Ubuntu. I discovered Ubuntu back when GNOME 2 was the desktop. That's how I found Linux Outlaws. I loved Ubuntu, and as Mac and Windows started going to a mobile direction, I loved Ubuntu even more. And then Ubuntu switched to that terrible mobile grid interface thing. Unity, guys.
I think that's a better name for it, to be honest.
And suddenly my old PCs that were brought back from there with Ubuntu were sluggish and slow again, slow as Windows, but without all the good that Windows offers. But at least there was GNOME. And then GNOME went in the weird-ass mobile direction with GNOME 3, and all was lost. These days, Windows 10 is pretty good for me. There are things I hate about it, but to wrap this up, Dave's run about it just made me sad about Ubuntu. Great OS that could have been. I mean, like this. I mean, maybe that's the joy of all the Ubuntu flavors, and that you can try KDE if you want to fiddle with settings for literally a decade. There's like LXD and XFCE, and they give you the kind of like the kind of thing you want. I think ultimately, like the best one was Crunchbang, the thing that Core Nominal did, where he took Debian and he.
That was probably the best Linux distro.
Yeah, it was. It was my favorite one. It was great.
In hindsight, it might have been the best ever.
It was taking Debian and putting the God, I can't remember the name of the thing. Something box was the display manager, and it was really
Box.
But it's just like, because it was based on Debian. Like, I think these days I'd get quite frustrated with it, given how many things sort of assume you have Ubuntu. But I mean, that's by the by. I think because it died in like 2013 or something. I think, which is sad. But that was the feedback, because like we didn't have very long to have feedback in, so pretty good.
Yeah.
And the image that you're talking about, I'm just looking at it now. That's awesome. It's so good. Like,
I like the Linux with 3X. It's like triple X Linux. It's like the little the mega slippers and the birds.
It's so good. And birds and GNR is there. The Gucci, Kiefer Sutherland,
It's so good.
Warhammer.
He just doodled that. I think he's just. Oh my god, that guy's so.
Nice.
Whenever I see any of his, like, I'm like, I thought I could draw a little bit. No, it's gone away. No, I don't. Why is there so much skill in the world and I have none of it?
Well, at least you can be a grumpy old kid, Fab.
That's my skill. That's what I've been dealt, and I'm using it to full extent. I'm inflicting it on the world best as I can. So the lesson, the life lesson from this show is, take the cards you're dealt and use them.
Strings, exactly.
If you would also like to send us a lovely long-form email, you can send it to us at gnr@sixgun.org. You can tweet the show at Geek News Radio. Fab is...
I'm Foxtrot Alpha Bravo Sierra Hotel on Twitter.
And Mike is...
MSTEVNSMJ. M stands MJ.
I'm at Megaslippers. That's Megaslippers.
That cracks you up every time.
Yeah, I've done it so many times.
It's great. Love it.
We have a Discord where it's great. It's like genuinely like busy all the time. Quieter on weekends because we're not at work. There's also the Strava Club.
You put the Strava Club in the notes now? Fuck's sake, Dave.
/6gun.
You know that this is the world foremost platform to finding out where GI bases are, because...
Yeah, but that's fine. And then there's also YouTube, where you can discreetly listen to podcasts at work.
I like the Runslingers. Whenever I see that 6-gun Runslingers, that's just...
It's such a
brilliant.
Good name. Like, it's great. And
I said David because it says David on the thing. David, you are second on the leaderboard. What are you doing?
Bullshit. That's bullshit. Tom has gone for a bike ride in the last 2 hours.
Yeah, and he beat you by 10 minutes. 3 hours, 11 minutes.
I beat him by like 4 minutes previous to that. So there's a leaderboard for who has done the longest amount of running/riding/swimming. And I, but 2 hours ago, was top of the leaderboard. And Tom has gone for a 13-minute bike ride.
Is this just total? Is this sorted on time?
It's sorted on time, but at the end of the week, it sums up total distance as well.
So do you have a hill? Just go up the hill and then just glide down as far as you can.
Yeah, just sort of really slowly pedal for 3 hours. But that would be disingenuous and it wouldn't be beneficial.
There's 7 members doing this. Wow.
There are 7 members. Fucking great, isn't it? It's ridiculous. There's 7 minutes you are active.
Completely out of the loop here, but it sounds fascinating. So it's basically a fitness competition.
Yeah, it tracks your runs or bike rides.
Strava is an app that you use to track your kind of activities in a sort of sporting way, and then compare yourself to your past self and also other people.
I'm half tempted to join this, and just log my bike rides.
No,
that's 300 kilometers a day.
No, but that's the thing. to report every rider's incorrect vehicle. Because
Why? It's a bike.
It's not. No, that's not what Strava is. That's not what it is.
It's for bikes, isn't it?
It's not. It's for cycling.
It's a motorcycle.
Yeah, that's all the ways to contact us. Hack the planet, I guess.
The kids will be all right.
Don't do it, whatever it is. No change.